backstage with your main event winner, Anthony Rumble Johnson, who just defeated Ryan Bader very quickly here in New Jersey. Walk us through that finish. Obviously, you knew he was going to shoot on you, but did you expect him to hold on to that submission attempt for so long? Backstage in Sweden, I'm joined by the Mauler. You've had an epic night. Let's start with this fight with Glover Teixeira. Glover, it's got to be one of the toughest guys you've ever faced, right? You told me earlier this week you didn't mind that people were counting out your wrestling because you knew your wrestling was good, and obviously you had no problem taking this to the canvas. When you were walking out, did you think, okay, I know he's going to attempt to shoot on me in the first few seconds of this fight? Yeah. It's been almost 8 months since we've seen you inside that octagon, and that was pretty much a flawless victory. In that time that we haven't seen you competing, how do you feel like you've really evolved and improved your game? You train with a great team, and you have some really good coaches that are specialized in each of their areas. How do you feel like, taking a look back at yourself, maybe even a year ago, that you've improved since then? Yeah, you beat number 2. I mean, there's only just one person in front of you, and that is the champion, Daniel Cormier. He's got a date with John Jones. They fight in July, so a couple months after that, you feel like you'll be ready to go? Where do you go from here? There's a lot that we don't know at 205 that's going on. There's a lot of what-ifs and possibilities. Where do you go from here? Yeah, certainly do. You've had an incredible 2 weeks. You had the birth of your beautiful daughter, and then you just proposed. A lot of life changes going on. How did you balance all of that and these decisions that you were going to make in the octagon tonight with preparing to fight one of the toughest guys on the planet? What about in terms of a future opponent? Do you have to fight for the title next, or do you just want to stay active? Yeah, and now you get to go spend time with your daughter. I've got to imagine that's going to take up all your days, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. Always a pleasure to watch you perform. Thanks. Absolutely. Congratulations. I know you truly prepared and had a tough camp for this. Obviously, the work paid off. Another one in the win column for you. Congrats, Rumble.
Thank you.
Thanks. Megan Olivi here with Quentin Jackson. We're in Nevada, Las Vegas, at Walmart, before your fan signing for MMA Elite. What's it been like to have them as a sponsor? Because when you walked in, I heard you say how much they meant to you. Megan Olivi here in Atlanta at UFC 145 Open Workouts. I'm joined by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. First of all, this fight pretty close to your home state of South Carolina. How many friends and family are you expecting to come? Yeah, how is the new gym? Because when I talked to you before your last fight, it wasn't open yet. Is it open to the public? How's it going? You come from kickboxing. Last fight was your UFC debut, and you came out with quite a bang. You got knockout of the night. How did that change your life for you? Because that's no easy feat. I mean, you made your debut, and then you got one of the coveted bonuses. All right, let's get back into this interview. Unless you want to beat him up, because we can have that on camera too. Tell me a little bit more about your camp and who you work with in South Carolina. Like you said, you do travel around to these other camps, but people may not know a lot about who you train with when you're home. All right, maybe we can get that on camera later. But speaking of fighting, how excited are you to go back to Japan for this fight? Yeah, physically, I mean, this is now 2 fight camps back-to-back, very close. You fought in February, now you're fighting in April. How do you feel physically? Was it rough any days getting out of bed, or was it pretty easy for you? We've never been to Japan. We're all going, our whole crew. What can we look forward to? We know you've got tons of stand-up skills. You're a very accomplished kickboxer. And you did mention your wrestling coach, but how important is it for you to work on your ground game, your BJJ and your wrestling? I mean, is that something you really put an emphasis on? All right, now you're going to Japan to face Ryan Bader. Strong wrestler. Where do you see yourself having the advantages? Because you also have a wrestling background. All right, well, thank you so much for talking to us. Good luck on Saturday against Matt Brown. All right, Quentin, thank you for your time. Go sign autographs. We're backstage with Demetrius Johnson, and everyone around you is coming up to you and saying, flawless, perfect. Is that how you feel about that performance? We're backstage here at UFC 181, and I'm joined by the newest addition to the UFC roster, Phil CM Punk Brooks, and we were just talking about this off camera. I wasn't sure what name you wanted to go by. Demetrius, I can't even imagine that there's like one thing you've done wrong, and I feel like every time I talk to you after you win, I'm saying the same thing to you. It was perfect. Where can you possibly improve? Yeah, all up to our fans. Well, let's get into how this decision was made. How long have you been thinking about joining the UFC roster, and then how did the process actually start to becoming now the newest member of the UFC family? You know, as the lead up to this fight progressed, he kept saying, oh, there are holes in his game, and I found that I'm going to exploit them. Do you think he relied on that too much? Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've got a lot of friends on our UFC roster, people like champion Ronda Rousey. Were you able to reach out and ask her opinion or her advice about this, or did you keep that a secret from almost everyone? Do you say that in a personal sense as well as a athletic sense? Why is Mom disappointed? You out-grappled. How much of that did you focus on in these last few months and thinking about, hey, this is where I need to start preparing for the time inside the octagon? You know, Bibiano gets you into these positions that
prepare you for a guy like Wilson? And how much like were you doing things in the gym that Wilson then tried to attempt inside the octagon yet? So for those who haven't seen the pay-per-view broadcast just yet, can you just explain where your head's at in that situation? Yeah, that's for sure, especially if they're annoying you, right?
Yeah, right.
Every time you fight, it looks perfect, and then you strive for even more perfection, and you obtain that. So what is next, Demetrius? We all wonder.
Yeah, well, the good news is Anthony Pettis and Duke Rufus happen to be here tonight.
They're here.
Yeah.
Yes, they're here.
Good
Awesome.
news. All right, well, finally, I'm getting wrapped up. Do you have a timetable where you see you making your debut?
You gonna keep that belt right there?
So tonight at like 9:30 Pacific time, you'll be inside that octagon practicing.
You heard it. I don't blame you, dude.
Yeah.
Congratulations on yet another flawless victory. Always a pleasure to watch you perform, Demetrius.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Megan.
Excellent. Well, we cannot wait to see you inside that octagon. Congratulations on joining the team. Welcome to Fight Week. We're here in New York City for UFC 230, which takes place this Saturday night. I am joined by the heavyweight contender, Derek Lewis, who takes on Daniel Cormier Saturday night for that heavyweight strap. I feel like we just talked. Hey everyone, Megan Olivi here in Las Vegas, and I am joined by one of the stars of the co-main event, Brock Lesnar, who takes on Mark Hunt this Saturday night at UFC 200. Brock, it's been a while since we've seen you. About 2011 since you last stepped foot inside the octagon. Talk to me about how that last appearance really affected you. Did you find yourself dwelling on what happened in the octagon? And were you expecting them to give you the shot at the title? I mean, I know you even said, I don't believe I'm ready for a title shot, but after kind of the emotions settled after that fight, did you think, yeah, I'm next in line? And that drove you to pick up the phone, call Dana White and say, I want to get back in there and compete? Was there any hesitation on your end about turning around so quickly? Let's talk about this event on Saturday night. It is UFC 200, a historic card. You were on a historic card in UFC 100. Was that something you wanted to make sure you were able to do, be on both these cards? What were some of the biggest concerns? Were there injuries after that fight at 229? Was it just that the fact this would be 5 rounds? Were there any concerns at all? 200 was decided on. Mark Hunt was decided on as your opponent. Talk to me about that matchup in terms of what you knew about Mark Hunt before you accepted the fight and what you know about him now as the day is near. What were some of the biggest concerns? Were there injuries after that fight at 229? Was it just that the fact this would be 5 rounds? Were there any concerns at all? Is there a knockout? Is there a decision? No, talk to me about the venue. Madison Square Garden, it's historic. It's where some of the greatest in combat sports have competed. Does it mean something for you to compete there? Are you a guy that studies tape every night? That's what makes you so great, is like you don't care about the things that typical fighters would care about, but you've got to care that this is for the heavyweight world title. What would it be like if you were able to become champion? I want to talk to you about training camp. A relatively shorter camp than maybe most fighters would take to prepare for such a big fight. Did that affect you at all? How do you feel about Daniel Cormier as your opponent? Did you just add some sparring in here and there then? Do you feel like his game plan is going to be to come in there and wrestle you? So what does a day in the life of your training camp look like? Have you been doing things differently these past few weeks or in addition to what you normally do? Up in Canada now. Do you feel the energy of New York City or do you just kind of stay in your hotel room? I mean, what is fight week like for you? What was your family's reaction when you said you were thinking about returning to the UFC? Do you have a lot more media this week because it's a title fight on such a big platform here in New York? You mentioned that you are still working for the WWE, and then you said on the conference call that you arm wrestled Vince McMahon to let you be able to do this, and now you've made shirts out of it and everything. Were you surprised? You have accomplished something in 2 different organizations that most people can never do. You've been the UFC heavyweight champion, you're a WWE superstar with tons of accolades. What is it about you that allowed you to accomplish not 1, but 2 of those things in 1 lifetime? Oh my gosh, you know the Kardashians do that, right? I know, I feel the same way. Whatever, you know, I was really trying to give you a compliment there, but all right, well that's amazing. We are fortunate that you're returning to the octagon. Brock, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me today. Really appreciate it. Best of luck to you on Saturday night. On that note, we look forward to seeing you fight at Madison Square Garden this Saturday. It's always a pleasure to talk to us. We appreciate you taking the time. Good luck. Backstage with John Bones Jones, who made his return to the octagon tonight. Successful return, I should say.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that performance? It's been a super night of fights so far here at UFC 200, and I'm joined by Super Sage Northcutt. Sage, talk to me about that performance. You got your hand raised tonight inside the octagon here at UFC 200. What were the emotions like for you walking out? It's been a long time. It's been a long road. What was
mentally going through your mind as you made that walk to the octagon? Oh, it was inspirational, Sage. Let's talk about the fight. How did you feel in there against Enrique? You know, last time we saw you perform, you were sick, and you talked about how that really was a setback for you. But going into the octagon healthy, ready to go, what difference did that make? I feel like you set a UFC record for most hugs before a fight. You found a family in the crowd, and you've got your corner who's so supportive. Knowing you had all those people there for you, it has to be a motivating thing, right? What challenges did Enrique pose to you? It looked like at some points it was inevitable that you were going to tap, and you didn't. So what danger were you in, and how good was his jits? Yeah. Talk to me about your opponent, Ovince St. Preux. Tough guy, ranked number 6. Took the fight on 3 weeks' notice. What did you think about what he did in the octagon tonight? What about on the feet? How do you feel like those matchups went? Was it nice to have an opponent like that who took you to 5 rounds and was dangerous from so many places, but also you didn't have a beef with? You could just kind of go out there and be yourself and focus on everything you needed to focus on. How was your preparation for this fight? How was your time up in Montreal at TriStar and all these different camps you were going to train? How much did that help you get a diversity in your game? You said hi to DC when you left the octagon.
I sure did.
Your own way. Now that you know, okay, this is happening, you've got the interim belt, you're going to unify those belts. Are you almost like more anxious now for that matchup? Yeah. So where do we go from here, Sage? I want to give you the opportunity to address something some people are saying on Twitter that maybe you were holding back on purpose tonight. Any truth to that? Does it feel cool to be on this UFC 200 card? There's a lot of media attention, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of notoriety going on. Is it neat for you to kind of realize this dream? We're excited to see all of that. Before I let you go, looks like you have a little bit of an injury. Did you get checked out by the doctors? Did they say anything, or is it just kind of like a soreness? Yeah, it definitely is. Well, go enjoy. I know you can watch the rest of the card. Congratulations on another victory.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. There he goes. All right. Celebration indeed. Thanks, John. Megan Olivi here with George St. Pierre. And George, can you help me get the rest of the fighters to dress as nicely as you? Because you all the press conference, everything, you always wear a suit, you always look so nice. How can we implement this with the rest of the guys? Chicago, I am joined by Jordan Mills, the starting offensive tackle for the Chicago Bears. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, but you're one of the few, you and Frankie Edgar, you guys act, Brian Sand, you wear suits to UFC events. We need this. It's professionalism. Yeah, I've been reading your Twitter, saw you were a big Ben Henderson fan. What got you to be a fan of Ben? Yeah, and this UFC on Fox deal seems to be really helping that, because you have, this is what the NFL is on every Sunday. You see the NFL on Fox, and now the UFC is on there. I mean, do you think that's really going to catapult the sport, especially with people who may not be as familiar? Yeah, now what got you into the UFC? I heard that you've been a fan for a long time, but why did you originally start watching? All right, and how's that injury feeling? OSP, you told me that you were going to go out there and do something unorthodox. You went out and got your 3rd Von Flue choke. What is it about the submission that just really should call your name? 5 in a row, Darren Elkins. Darren, is it even possible for you to be in a boring fight ever? Walking down the ramp here backstage to go to medicals, I heard your coach Eric Turner say something about you guys being surprised that Okami even shot for a takedown. What really did you expect him to go out and do? You mentioned that it was a grind. You really grinded Dennis out, especially with your wrestling. Did you go into this matchup thinking you would have that grappling advantage? You never cease to amaze us with all of these unorthodox attacks that you have. Obviously this was a tough position to be in, with Shogun being replaced by Okami, traveling around the world to have this fight. What really stressed you out the most, if anything? I know you were so calm this week, but there had to be some concerns. You told me yesterday that you felt like you might have to make this one a grind in order to get your hand raised. At any point, did you ever feel like he was going to be the victor in this? So that's the fight you want next, not anybody who's ranked in front of you right now who might be in title contention. You want that Shogun rematch. Your coach Justin Buckles told me, hey, he needs to be considered for title contention now. He's got 5 in a row. He's beating guys that have a lot of hype behind them. Do you feel like you are the next contender? Do you feel like you need to face somebody else and then say I should be in line for the title? Where are you at here? You told me that after your last few fights, you are consistently trying to learn and have new approaches. Is that what is going to be the future of OSP, making sure you are diverse everywhere? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It is always a pleasure to watch you perform. We appreciate it, Darren. Thanks. Excellent. Well, we're so looking forward to seeing you back in that octagon. I know that you've been enjoying your time in Japan, but you're going to be a tourist a little bit, so enjoy, have fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Backstage here in Las Vegas at UFC 209. Tyron Woodley, he retained his belt, but look at this face. There's no big smile on there. Tyron, what's going through your mind? Backstage in Chicago, he's got his gold shades. He's also got a brand new gold belt. You got a match right now. Was there something within yourself that wasn't allowing you to follow the game plan, or something that he did? Well, you're certainly going to be able to unify those soon in the near future. Is there a card that you'd like to get on? Are you feeling like you'd like to jump right back into a training camp, or do you feel like you need a break after all of this? Did you feel like that fight should have been stopped in the final round where you dropped him? Man, that would be amazing. But let's talk about the fight tonight, because Colby, man, you were incredibly impressive. You said you always had faith in your cardio, you had pressure, you had everything moving forward, going in your direction. Tell me what the game plan was going into it, and if you feel like you lived up to it. Did the crowd's reaction affect you at all? Yeah, well, it certainly was not boring, and I know that you are a guy who's continually looking to improve. You seem like a different fighter every single time you come out there, new and improved. What would you like to work on in terms of this next matchup with Tyron Woodley? Well, you're very mature in your answers here, obviously. Welterweight's got like a lot going on right now. I know there's Damian Maia, who really wants a shot. What do you think should be next for you? Certainly an incredibly bright future. Before I let you go, I did see that you and Rafael maybe exchanged some words in the medical room. It seemed like you were friendly. What did you guys say? Excellent. Looking forward to it. Congratulations to you. Much deserved. Go have fun. Thanks, Colby.